on Texas football today. Longhorns, CJ Vogel, Bobby Burton here with you. Longhorns announcing, I think, in a little backwards way here. It actually was broken by Brett McMurphy first. But Steve Sarkisian, the Texas head football coach, has been extended. I am learning that his extension is now taking his contract through 2031. Sarkeesian has been noted by Adam Schefter, the NFL reporter, veteran NFL reporter, has been contacted and been the object of some interest from NFL teams, and he has opted to decline those interviews and has signed an extension with Texas. Again, that takes him through 2031 for the Longhorns. Another big win this offseason. You see this tweet right here posted just moments ago by Chris Del Conte. While they are not saying it publicly, I think this tweet speaks volumes. I had a source tell me about an hour ago that El-Taif and Del Conte met with Sark in Austin to go over details of this agreement, and they have reached a deal to make this a reality. CJ Vogel, what do you make of this? Just more of what we thought was to come, and it kind of solidifies that Sark's going nowhere in the pros, as junior day now is just 1 week away, as well as maybe the NCAA's transfer portal and what they're going to do in the spring there.
Huge for Texas. First and foremost, it's big for Texas. How can it not be? This is the coach that's you've seen incremental steps each year that he's been here, going from 5-7 to 8-5 to a playoff berth to, hey, now you're in the SEC. You're a top 4 program once again this year. To lock Sarkeesian up for another year, very important for the Longhorns, of course, Bobby. We talked about the extension a year ago around this time that locked Sarkeesian all the way up to 2030, now obviously to 2031. But my goodness, the steps that he's taken, and now you can build more on that, right? Texas just landed the #1 recruiting class in all the country. That's a big result of Steve Sarkisian and the vision he has. Obviously, retention at the head coaching job for football. It's been a rocky decade plus. Texas has their guy, and they're making sure he's not going anywhere.
I think it's terrific in so many respects. Somebody wants to say boom, like we got a commitment, and there is certainly that to it. But I will look around, CJ, as we talk here a little bit about this contract extension. I look around to some other guys that are Sark's contemporaries at major schools that Texas is recruiting against in the state of Texas. So Brent Venables at OU, he's through 2029. Mike Elko at A&M is through 2029. The only one that recruits the state of Texas that's all the way out to 2031, like Steve Sarkisian, is Brian Kelly, the coach at LSU. So this puts Texas, it puts him in rare company, I think is the best way to put it. Overall, here you see the report from Brett Murphy that I confirmed with sources. Steve Sarkisian agrees to contract extension with Texas after declining interviews with 2 NFL teams. Sources said UT Board of Regents Chair Kevin El-Taif and AD Chris Del Conte were key figures in getting the deal done. Source said Sarkisian has led Texas to consecutive CFP semifinal bursts and double-digit win seasons for the first time in 17 years. The fact Sarkisian didn't take any NFL interviews shows his buy-in and commitment to the University of Texas, a source said. I tell you what also shows it, the fact that he had the year he's had, yet he's still hitting it hard in recruiting, man. The guy's still going a million miles. On Thursday, the same day the very day after he finished negotiating, 50-plus NIL deals over a two or 3 day window, he's out at Temple High School visiting with a young defensive end, Jamarian Carlton. This guy it seems to be always on and always getting after it hard on behalf of the Longhorns. Really right now could not have a better leader for the program.
No, I completely agree. And again, it's been a rough road for Texas to find their guy. To hold on to Sarkeesian, I think, is very important for the Longhorns. Again, building off of that #1 class, back-to-back college football playoff appearances. I don't know, Bobby, if there's a program better positioned for the future of college football. And to speak on his work ethic, I know that we've talked about the new life of college football coaches. It's a life I certainly don't envy. But when you talk about having to coach 16 games to make sure that now you got to retain your lineup, your roster for the upcoming year, to have a signing day and all of this, and then to battle the portal, Bobby, whew, I mean, where do you get to sit back, kick your feet up, and enjoy being a coach? I don't know how often you get to do that anymore. So I kind of look at this extension for a couple of ways. One, for Texas, on the Texas side, you want to retain your guy. You don't want to keep Sarkeesian in Austin as long as possible, and they've done just that so far. And on Sarkeesian's side, hey, it's probably a good moment to sit back, kind of congratulate yourself. You've done a heck of a job getting Texas to where it is. There's still more to go, obviously. Texas hasn't lifted national championship trophy just yet. But it is, in a way, a congratulatory, Sarkeesian, you're our guy. We want to keep you here. We have the buy-in. Obviously, he's being paid like a top 3, top 5 coach in all of the country. This is another way for Texas to show Sarkeesian its gratitude, in my eyes.
Yeah, I agree. And show that they want to keep him and are willing to go and do the things that are necessary, not just in NIL, but in resources from his assistant coach in finance pool, et cetera, GM, and everything that he wants to make Texas one of the elite programs in the country, if not the best college football program in the country. One thing I want to mention, in addition to Brett McMurphy, we can say that the extension is for 1 year, and people are asking, well, how much more money is it, et cetera. I do not have that information yet. I'm sure that information will be forthcoming in the coming weeks or days even. Also, I want to mention this, CJ. It keeps him, I think, just as importantly, away from the NFL a little bit more. It shows that he is committed to the University of Texas, and I think that's a huge piece of the puzzle for the Longhorns. They want a coach that wants to be at Texas. I spoke with someone close to the situation prior to the Ohio State game when I knew when Adam Schefter first started talking about, Sark's going to be, some people are going to be interested in the NFL, going to want to talk to him. And their response was, we want him, but he's any coach that's going to be like him, that's going to be successful. They got to want to be at Texas too. And I think that both sides met on this and both want to be there and want him there. And so I think that's how a relationship is, right? It's not right. One-sided. Both sides have to agree to it. And so I think that was a big piece of it.
I think that needs to be talked about a little bit more because, again, I just went through the entire day-to-day, week-to-week, month-to-month of a coach in college these days. You don't get much time off, whereas the NFL, Bobby, and we can talk about Sarkeesian's tenure up there. He has familiarities with the NFL. We've seen college coaches take a lesser title in the NFL because of how rough and rigorous their day-to-day is. And for Sarkeesian, look, there's also plenty of head coaches openings in the NFL, right? The Dallas Cowboys are certainly one of them. I don't know for certainty if the Cowboys were one of the 2 teams that inclined to interview Sarkeesian. I don't know that. But there are plenty of intriguing opportunities at the head coaching spot open, and for Sarkeesian to say no to both shows his commitment to the university. Again, it's one of those things that when you look at it for Sark, how can you not be excited about what you've already built, right? 2 top 4 finishes. You got Arch Manning taking the reins. You got a number 1 recruiting class coming in. You maybe have 6, 7, 5-star guys scheduled to start on next year's roster, right? We talk about the level of elite talent that you need to win a national championship. I think we can all agree Texas is getting really darn close to doing just that. And when you start to stack these classes, well, who knows what the next couple of years looks like, but Sarkeesian certainly wants to be in Austin to figure it out.
Well, exactly. And you also, it shows he's committed to the Manning family,
yes,
as well as to all those players that he just re-signed in the transfer portal too, or from going into the transfer portal, et cetera. It's indicative of a team and program moving in the right direction and distilling confidence throughout it. Because the next stage of this, CJ, when a head coach gets a raise or gets an extension, the assistants typically do as well. So Quentin asked, when Sark gets a raise, do the assistants get a raise too to keep them in place? It's not one size fits all on assistant coaches in their pay situations. Some of them will get raises. Some of them will get extensions. Some are already on 2 or 3 year deals. Some were on 1 year deals like Terry Joseph and Blake Gideon. I'm sure they're going to likely get extended here in the next month or two. But I will say this, those extensions usually come in the month of February, after the old traditional signing day of the first Wednesday in February. That's when those extensions and contract renewals tend to be announced and what have you, Quentin, to talk about a little bit for the Longhorns. Look, I would say this too, CJ. When we look back at it and look at the other coaches, as I mentioned, Mike Elko's up in 2029, coming off his first year at A&M, 8-5. Brent Venables, 6-7 this year at OU. His contract's through 2029. Sarks is through now 2031. It's another little nugget that Texas coaches can throw out there on the recruiting trail as well. And I want to add this. Jay Hartzell, the president of the University of Texas, is going to take the same job or a similar job at SMU.
Right.
And we spent a lot of time talking about it being a, quote, triumvirate of sorts heading the University of Texas, not only with Jay Hartzell, but also Chris Del Conte, the athletic director, and Kevin Eltife, the chair of the Board of Regents. One thing that needs to be mentioned here is that Eltife and CDC made sure they kept the guy they wanted to keep at the head of the most important sports program at the University of Texas in football.
Great point.
So even though Hartzell may have left for another job, they knew they needed to keep Steve Sarkisian, and those two men played key roles according to that source and according to someone I spoke to as well. So big piece of the puzzle there.
Yeah, of course, that conversation when Hartzell departed was, where will Texas go for its president? Who will be leading the university? Who will be the guy in charge of, on coaching decisions, coaching searches? I know that's CDC and his large role as well, but to keep athletics as a focal point for the university, it was a question, right? Who will be the guy that keeps athletics at the forefront for Texas? And at least with Chris Del Conte and the Board of Regents right now, Bobby, there's no question about it. Texas is looking to lock up its head football coach, and they've done just that, making sure that athletics remains a priority. And I think everybody in the chat, Texas fans alike, can appreciate that after the 15 years previous where it was a pretty rocky road. So all in all, the big takeaway I have from Steve Sarkisian inking this extension once more, Bobby, is this. Recruiting is going to be the lifeline of Texas, right? We've talked about it, whether it be in-state, whether it be the national brand that Texas has created, to go to Florida, to dip into Georgia. Louisiana has been good. Now also California, as we've talked about, to be able to sit there and say, okay, our head coach, the Texas head coach, Steve Sarkisian, he's going to be there for your entirety of your career. That's not something Texas has had for quite some time. And now that's going to be a big selling point. It's 2031's a ways away. You commit to Texas, you play next year, all 4 years that you're in school, Sarkisian's expected to be the guy. You commit to one coach, you play for one coach, that coach will coach for you. And that's a big selling point on the recruiting trail, especially when you start looking around to other coaches in the SEC. Seats get hot pretty quickly, and you never just know when those relationships that you commit your next 4 years to just evaporate. So this is a big selling point for the Longhorns moving forward, and to build off of that number one class, Texas very much looking to do it again in 2026.
A couple of questions now that we've talked about Sark, and congratulations to him, as well as the administration, Kevin Eltife and Chris Del Conte, getting this done. They did their work as well here. I want to mention a couple of transfer portal notes. Amari Niblack, the tight end from Alabama by way of Texas, is visiting Texas A&M over the weekend. We do not know where he's going to end up for sure, but I will say that Texas was okay with him going on. Feel very comfortable with Jordan Washington. I also expect Texas to look in the transfer portal for an older tight end. Maybe that is someone that can match with Spencer Shannon as an inline blocker this offseason. The other one is the Penn State wide receiver Harrison Wallace. CJ, we're hearing that Texas is not going to be in there for that one, but you heard something more specific about a timeline for Texas and what they might be doing in the portal as it relates to wide receiver earlier yesterday, I believe.
Yeah, Texas will be active for a wide receiver. I was told it'll be closer to that spring portal window. So you see names entering the portal as of right now. Obviously, Amari Evans, Harrison Wallace, two guys from Penn State who might fit the mold of what Texas is looking for. I've been told that Texas is kind of just staying put at wide receiver, at least to the spring portal window. Of course, let's see what Texas wide receiver group looks like. I know that they are really opportunistic about the guys that they have. Obviously, DeAndre Moore, Ryan Wingo are the two big names returning, but a lot of fresh faces. Can they grasp the offense right away? That's been a big talking point amongst wide receivers that we've hoped Texas or would see the field at Texas. So right now, spring portal window, look for a one and done, a guy that has a lot of experience, a speedster, if you will. That's kind of the approach that I've heard Texas will be taking over the next 3 or 4 months, Bobby.
CJ, as we sit here and look at it and have final thoughts here before we let folks go on this Saturday afternoon and get back to the football game like we are. The question I had for you, final thoughts on the extension and what all it means. I think the lineup of alignment, I guess, of not only Sark, but also his connection with Kevin Eltife and Chris Del Conte, the recruiting posturing that it allows for. Anything else you think that you think that we need to hit on to make sure people fully grasp what this extension means?
I think one note that we haven't talked about is just what it means for the current locker room. You know, it's
current locker room. Yeah.
Because it's one thing, Bobby, when you're a freshman or you're a sophomore, and again, you buy into this coach, this coaching staff, and there's NFL rumors. It's hard to not say, okay, why would you not want to go to the NFL? We're trying to go to the NFL, right? That's for many folks, that's the ultimate goal of playing football or coaching football, is to get to the league. To decline those two reported job interviews from the NFL by Brett McMurphy, I think that says a lot to the current locker room to say Sarkeesian is completely bought into you. This is a place he wants to build. He wants to achieve great things here. And that helps the buy-in from the player side as well. I think that's an underrated aspect of this because, look, players see, they hear, they talk. Whatever's being reported elsewhere, some of the rumors amongst college football, that was going to be one. And we heard his name floated out on reports and TV shows in the past 2 or 3 weeks when Texas was still playing. To know that he's not going anywhere, that's going to help the current locker room as well.
That's a really great point. And I should have thought about that, but I did think about it, but I just didn't say it. So thanks for, putting that in there, CJ, because it may end up being the biggest factor of all for the 2025 season. Right? 100%. I mean, we're talking about recruiting, but recruiting's still going to be a ways away other than the portal stuff because they're already fast forwarding to the 2026 season, 2026 recruiting class. All right, that's going to do it for this edition of On Texas Football. Thank you all so much for joining us. I know this was a quick live show here, but we wanted to get the news out there because we do think it's significant. Steve Sarkisian, the Texas head football coach, has agreed to an extension through 2031. Meeting with both Chris Del Conte and Chair of the Board of Regents, Kevin Eltife, to get that done. For CJ Vogel, I'm Bobby Burton. Thanks for watching. We'll have more today and tomorrow on Texas Football. Hook 'em.